Hello dollhouse friends. Today I am going to be starting to install a floor in this top floor room of my dollhouse. This is, I think, going to be a little girl's room or maybe an older daughter's room. I haven't quite decided yet. Definitely a daughter's room, whether it'll be an older one or a younger one. I think probably an older one. I don't know. You know how it is when you do these projects. You have so many ideas and you have to decide. Decisions, I think, are the hardest part. So we're going to be putting in a floor. I have my task light aimed in this room so that I can see everything well. Here is a room that doesn't have a light in it right now. You can see that there's a dark floor in there. So I'm going to be doing the same kind of thing. Now I've already prepared the floorboards for the floor that I'm going to do. However, I'll walk you through my process. So to begin with, I'm using craft sticks. Now you can buy sheets of wood that are already stained, I believe. I know you can buy them unstained. They're sort of sheets that are already grooved and you just lay them down. You can buy thin floorboard strips. But I kind of wanted to have a go at doing it myself. And these are basically popsicle sticks. You can get these at any craft store. I got these on Amazon and they're really fairly cheap. So I can get a few out of here. Probably should just cut that, shouldn't I? There we go. I think these are made of birch. I'm not 100% sure. And I've had different batches. You can see this one is not a great batch. I've had there's a lot of grooves in here, little splinters and things like that. So you kind of have to play around with which ones are better quality or not. Now this stick is fine right here. So this side is not as nice, this side is nicer, so I'll use this side. I've also found that these are not necessarily perfectly straight. So this is not the best batch of sticks I've ever had. But as I say, they're pretty cheap, and I get enough good ones out of them that what I have to throw away, I don't worry about, too much. And even with a piece like this that's, kind of, I don't know if you can really see how it's a little bit crooked and it's, that the ends are not beautiful or whatever. I'll take a section of it like this and cut that much out maybe and throw the rest away. Whatever bit of it seems clean and straight, because I'm going to be staggering these floorboards. They're not all going to be the same, right? You want to get that sort of uneven look with the floorboards. So having some shorter pieces will help do that. Now, I know that people love this tool. I think it's called a miter cutter. And I heard so many great things about it. I decided to get myself one. And this is adjustable. I've tightened the screws on this so that it'll stay put, but you put things at the angle that you want. Put your piece of wood flush up against it and then cut it. I don't like it. I have tried it for a number of things, and my problem is, if I can get this here, do you see how if I hold something else up against it, this end is at an angle. It's not a nice 90-degree corner right here, which just kind of throws everything off. I mean, I guess I could use the longer edge up all of the time and just let that angle be hidden underneath, but I don't know. I think that's just one more thing I'd have to pay attention to all the time. So I don't even know if I'm going to keep that miter cutter. Every time I've tried to use it for something, I've ended up getting rid of it. I ended up putting it back and doing something else. Usually what I do is this. Now this is called a gentleman's saw. I think it's also called a miter saw. It has a little lip right here. This is meant to go on the edge of your table or desk. My desk is kind of a cheap desk. I like it, but it's not super strong, and it would definitely get really, really banged up. It's just sort of a painted paper finish, I think. Graphic, what do you call that stuff? Graphic paper? I don't know. It's not a fancy finish. It's not going to hold up to the wear and tear of this. But I have this piece left over from my dollhouse build, so I just put this on top of that. It gives me that lip right there. I will put my piece in here. Now this piece has it's a little bit crooked at the end, so I'm going to cut that off and discard it. You'll see that when you see if I can zoom in a little more here. You can see how this kind of comes away from the edge there, so you can see where it starts to curve. So I'll get that in there. And I think a little bit further along. Yeah, this section here seems pretty straight. This, when I first got it, I also didn't love this, and then I discovered that all I really needed to do was wax this a little bit. So you can rub an old candle on it, a piece of bar soap. I've actually rubbed chapstick on it, just something to make it slide better. Any little thing that will make it slide better will do just fine, as long as you're not overloading it so that you don't get a lot of wax or something on your stick or whatever it is that you're cutting. I hope this doesn't make too bad a noise on the camera. But, just a few swipes, it cuts pretty easily. And as you can see, I've now got, back that up, a much straighter edge right here. This is pretty much a 90-degree edge right here. So these I just toss. At first I kept every little scrap, but I really don't have any use for a million and one little ends of sticks. Obviously you've got to do the other end. We'll zoom in a little bit more there. So I'm going to again look at it and see, where is it straight, where does it start to bow. And that's that. So this will be one of my shorter pieces used for staggering the sticks. Now, it is time consuming to do this. Your hands get tired. It's annoying. So I would just, make a deal with myself that while I was listening to the news or a chapter of an audiobook or something like that, I would, I'd just spend 10 minutes doing this. However many I got done, put them aside, do a few more the next day until I had a whole bunch of them done. So that's that. So then my next step, once I have all these cut, is to stain them all. Get these out of the way. I have an old cookie tray. I have a couple of these actually. I love these for projects that I'm working on because they have the ridge, so I can load this up, get it filthy, have projects that are wet or in process, put the tray aside, and the edges of the tray keep everything in place. I keep little plastic lids from peanut butter jars and mayonnaise jars and things like that. I have lots of these there. You can see this one's well used. They're so great for holding small amounts of glue or stain or paint or mixing paints in. I like wood dye. One of the main reasons I like it is that it doesn't stink. I started out using regular wood stain and I couldn't stand the smell. So these I just buy online. I don't know if you can get these in certain hardware stores or DIY stores. I've only found them online so far. I'm using dark walnut for mine. There's lots and lots of colors. I've actually mixed some of my colors before. You really want to shake them up well. And then a little goes a very long way with these, especially when you're working in miniatures. So all I do is just dispense a teeny little amount like that. I would dispense a little bit more if I was doing a bunch of floorboards, but I'm just going to show you some samples that I've done. Just find a paintbrush I like. This will work. And as I'm staining these, I do usually wear gloves because it is messy. This stuff, don't wear really nice clothes because this stuff can splatter. Continue stirring it. It will settle a bit. So as you're using it, do stir it up pretty frequently with your brush. And I forgot to say that I always kind of check both sides of the piece that I'm staining just to make sure that I have the nicest side facing up. Okay. And I do go along the edges and the ends a little bit and set it aside. And it just goes on so nice and easy. It's not anything that you have to really be fussy about. Some people I know will blot off the excess with a little bit of kitchen towel. I have not found that necessary, probably because I'm using such a tiny amount that I'm not soaking the wood clear through. And then I'll just go through and do all of those. With all of my pieces, I wanted a little bit darker finish, so I did a second coat. Artists are going to lecture me severely for this, I'm sure. When I'm done with my brushes, I throw them in a jar of water mixed with some brush cleaner soap. I think you can find lots of brush cleaner soap at Michael's and Joann's and art stores and things like that. So I got a brush cleaner soap. You might be able to use I don't know, whatever it is that you normally clean brushes with. And I have brushes that I've used acrylics on, glues, stains, like everything's in here. This is a mess. This is about ready for me to take to the kitchen and do a serious cleaning. Okay, I'm really bad about this. I know I should treat my brushes much better. I don't have expensive brushes. They're very cheap. I'm not a real artist, so I don't worry about it. So far it's worked out fine. None of my brushes have been damaged or ruined so that I can't use them. All right, any little bit that I have in there, I will pour it back unless I've mixed colors. So let's just pour that right back in the jar and save that. So I've had this, I've already done a wood floor with this. I've done several pieces of furniture, items for my shop, and I've still got a lot left. It really lasts a long time. No smell. It dries really quick. It's just so nice. Really love this stuff. Okay. So now I've got, put that one aside since I didn't put a second coat on it, a whole bunch of these, big huge pile of these that I've already stained. I didn't sand these. I find that they really don't need it. And I'm gonna have a little bit of a exploration on different brands of these. I've been buying these on Amazon. I have not bought them from a craft store yet. I should look into that. I just want to kind of see if some of them are better quality than others. Because the first set that I bought on Amazon, and I did my first floor with them in the other upstairs room in the dollhouse, and they were great. And I had a lot more issues with this one. I had to cut off a lot more stuff, and there were a lot more pieces here that I may still throw out because I didn't think they were so perfect. So, with that said, let's go over to the dollhouse and get started. Okay, so here we go. Now, I want to draw some lines on the floor in this room because I can be reasonably sure that it is not exactly 100% perfectly square. No matter how carefully I tried to do this, I'm sure things got skewed a little bit one direction or the other. And you'll find this in a real house too. I know in my house that, if you look at the tiles or something at the edge of a room, there's a little bit of a difference sometimes in how much tile shows at one end of the room as compared to the other room. Things just don't always come out perfectly square. So I think the way I'm going to handle this is I'm just going to start over here. Get my ruler into that corner as well as I can. I'm not measuring any particular width here, but I'm just going to, oops, it goes sliding around already. Yeah. I'm just going to, I know this is going to be a problem. I'm trying to figure out where to put the camera so that I don't keep bumping into it, but you can still see where things are. So please bear with me while I learn how to cope with these things. I'm just going to do some lines, the width of the ruler. I'm not doing any particular measurements here to see if I can come up with something that's fairly straight. And work from the other side as well. Let's see if we meet up sort of square in the middle. Hopefully. I did prime the inside of my dollhouse. You can see that this white is here. The videos that I watched on constructing dollhouses didn't say that was necessary, and in fact some people said they didn't bother to prime. This was a really old kit, and I felt like some of the wood probably needed that extra support because it was so old and had been stored in a barn and things like that. But the main reason I primed it is because, you know, my eyes are getting older and I seem to need a ton of light for everything. And priming all these inside pieces just made it that much brighter inside. Okay, so I have met my lines here, and if I line this one back up over here, you can see it's a little bit off there. A little bit off. So what I'm going to do is work from one of these I think I'll work from this line out. It's not off by a huge amount. Scribble out that line. Go with this one. And then because I will be putting baseboard trim on everything and then filling up this room with stuff, I think we're going to be fine. It's all a learning process for me too. Okay. So just once I start gluing this in as I work, I'm going to try to make sure that I'm keeping my sticks on the line, you know, or parallel with these lines. And then it will also help me weed out any sticks that are really just too crooked to be used. So I vacuumed this out, by the way, with my little handheld vacuum. And I also took my cheap little makeup brush to just make sure that's completely dusted out in here. All right, now the glue that I'm going to be using is Tight Bond dark wood glue. That way if anything seeps through the floor, it will just blend in. You do have to be careful with this though, because if you are clumsy like I tend to be and you get any of it on the wallpaper or the white door or anything like that, if you don't get that off of there right away, you're going to end up with a dark stain. So I'm taking a chance by doing this. I'm not very coordinated and this could backfire. I think it would be perfectly safe to use clear wood glue as well. I used to laugh at the glue aisle in the craft section and be like, what do you need all these glues for? Why so many glues? But now that I'm into this project, I have lots of kinds of glues. And you do need, depending on the materials you're working with, you need different glues. Anytime you're gluing wood to something else, whether it's wood or something else, wood glue will usually work. I'm not sure that if you were trying to glue wood to plastic for some reason, I'm not sure this would work. But if you're gluing wood to wood or wood to maybe fabric or paper, anything else that's porous like that, wood glue is going to work fine. So this is just a little makeup brush. I'm going to just start back here. I'm going to be very careful going up to the wall there that I don't get that on the paper. If I get some at the very edge of the paper there at the very bottom, that's not really too much of a problem since I will be covering that area with the floorboard, the baseboard trim anyway. So I'm just going to use this to get myself a good layer of glue there. I could probably also put the glue on the back of the sticks. I may switch to that. We'll decide what feels feels better. Feels faster and more coordinated. Take my stick. Line it up on my pencil line there. See what I'm doing. I'll try to do it with the other hand so you can see. Get that lined up straight. And it really wants to slide around. So that first one, getting that first one in place is kind of tricky. So as I said I think I said in my first video, in the other room that I've done a floor in, I cut out a template of the floor. Okay, I think that's pretty good right there. Just gonna hold that down, let that really settle in. Once I get going with this and I have some in place to bump up against, it won't take so long. But yes, so in my other room, I used craft paper to cut out a template of the floor. It was a little more complicated because, go over here. I had a dividing wall and a stair opening I had to get around. So I did cut out the template. I had seen these floors done two ways. I looked up some videos of how other people did it to see what was going on, and many people did use that paper template for their flooring. And one of the reasons, as I said in the other video, is that if you needed to replace your floor, I guess the argument is that it would be easier to pull up an old floor and put in a new one if you have it glued to paper and then you have the paper sort of lightly adhered to the dollhouse. But I didn't love the way it came out. I felt like it was kind of uneven. I don't know if this is going to come out more even. I mean, look at that, wanted to pop up right there. Maybe this will come out more even if I glue it right to the floor. And really, I don't see myself replacing these floors. So I'm going to gamble on it and try it and see if I like it better this way. I'm going to get a little painter's tape. And just get that first piece like kind of pressed down there and get that to dry. What I will do as I get going is weigh these down with something heavy. I just want to get this first sort of guiding line of pieces in place. Okay. It does want to pop up a little bit. So here's my weight. A brick. If I had a brick or something, that would be perfect. We're using cake mix, sorry. Okay. So, a little bit warped right there and a little bit of spacing that I don't really like. Kind of not laid down very well. That bit popped up there. So, yeah, I'm not loving this. I think I actually liked this better when I used the paper template. So my next job now is to see how hard it's going to be to pull these up. I imagine I'll probably break them. It's okay. I've got plenty more. Let's see. the flooring that I had started to do in here. Wasn't happy with the way it came out. I think that it still could work to just fine to glue the floor right to the surface in here. I think part of my problem was that I didn't have, I don't know if you can you see that angle there? So this back wall slopes in. It's really hard to get that angle on camera, but you can see there's a dormer window here, and that kind of shows the slant of the wall. So that meant that I couldn't get anything right up to the edge there to weigh the boards down, and they kind of like they curled up. That's one problem I often run into when you're gluing things, is the glue will cause the wood to bend and curl a little bit. So you have to tape everything and weigh everything and clamp everything. And I just really couldn't get that clamped down in there. So I am going to use the paper template, and I just, for the sake of time, did a time lapse on pulling all of these boards out that I had started to glue in and creating the template. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to do my second piece here.